To people who've lived in a rough neighborhood, places with gang violence and stuff. What challenges did you face on a day-to-day basis? What experiences have stayed with you? You learn that, if something feels off, it's time to leave. Sometimes you just know, poop's about to go down. I've been accused of being skittish in other situations. Lots of stuff that has been mentioned already. I will add, having to walk several blocks to an area where delivery drivers, like pizza, would meet you, because they would not go further into your neighborhood. Same with cabs/Ubers. Knowing who belongs there is a big one. You know who the regular dealers are etc. If you see a new person around that raises suspicion, because they could be trouble. Keeping the possessions you really cared about locked up, not in car, in home, because break-ins happen. I personally kept my POS car unlocked, because I could not afford to replace broken window. Nothing in it was worth anything and it never has gotten stolen. Before I had a car, getting groceries was hard. Like another person said, grocery stores were not close by, just overpriced ghetto marts, corner stores. Even catching a bus was hard, because there was less service in my area than in other parts of the city. Violence was present, but not something that bothered me. Maybe I was used to it. I have had an armed escort home several times, when I found myself in the middle of a gang dispute. Each time a few fellows who knew I lived near called a truce of sorts, and would walk me home. Not that I was particularly special, I think they did that to others who happened to be out late. Gang members would stop the dispute to walk people home? Well, that's very nice. Wholesome ghetto. Never giving passerbys on sidewalks a moment or a reason to continue a conversation. A frequent thing would be people heckling me as I walked to/from school. Hey man, can I use your phone? I don't have a phone, without slowing down. And things like that. Don't stop, don't look, and don't say no. No, and I don't have a phone, are two very distinct sentences and the differences between them is important. Edit, I'm getting a million replies, so I guess this hit front page. So here's the scoop for those of you that don't understand the difference. I don't have a phone. I definitely have a phone and I will not let you use my phone. After I got jumped I learned that looking stronger keeps people away a little bit. Always be ready for something to happen. I kept a constant look that I'm pissed. Still have this habit. I embrace my resting female dog face, maybe a bit too enthusiastically. The ability to distinguish between gunshots, firecrackers, and a car turning over stays with me to this day, even as my neighborhood gets safer. Don't get shot. I moved after I could hear regular gunfire. So I moved to a nice neighborhood and ironically 3 days after moving in, somebody smashed the passenger window of my car and stole $2.50 in change. The cops said they were looking for drug money, and yet I had just moved out of Drug Central in my city and never had anyone break into my car. Go figure. How normal it seemed, until I was out from under that. You grow up knowing how to stay off the radar and not bother the wrong people. You see wild, crazy scary things on the regular, and learn to keep your mouth shut and pretend you didn't. You are just a kid, like any other kid, but you have to be preternaturally aware of the relationships and hierarchies and happenings around you all the time, to make sure you don't end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. For example, there was a guy who let his big mean dogs, I don't remember the breed, run loose in the neighborhood, but the dogs respected boundaries in terms of how close you could get to their house before you got your throat torn out. Stay far enough aware, and they just sat watching you, with the occasional menacing growl. I spent the year we lived there thinking it was perfectly normal that I couldn't walk home from school on that one side of the street on penalty of death. It's just what happens. It's just your normal. The biggest thing for my ignorant teenage self was that nobody would want to drive me home because they'd be too scared. Once a friend's car broke down in my neighborhood and got guns pulled on him. Guess who never got rides again after that? Reliable car. Don't drive by too slowly or more than once. Don't creep. Don't look at anyone in particular. And for God's sake don't stop at stoplights unnecessarily. Driving through bad neighborhoods 101. I did nighttime pickups for the company I worked for in Newark, NJ in the early 2000s. Day to day isn't terrible. Keep your head down and keep moving. Also be polite to your neighbors, and you won't have any real trouble. Only real experience that has stayed with me is that when I hear yelling/shouting outside I don't react anymore. You're always slightly on guard. Always keeping your doors locked. Your sense of relaxation and safety isn't fully there. Not too long ago someone walked into my neighbor's house about 20 feet from my front door and tried to steal their 6-year-old child. My story is somewhat funny. I used to live in the poor/cheap prostitute area of Montreal. One day, my mom came to pick me up. I was wearing Bermuda shorts with an oversized t-shirt that was stained. Was going to help her paint her living room. I'm waiting on the street corner and a car pulls up that looks like my mom's. I bent down to look at the driver to make sure it's my mom before I hop in. It's her, so I get in the car. Next thing I know, some girls start running towards us, screaming that I stole her client and that her daddy will come for me. I told my mom to GTFO and I moved shortly after. Never lived in one, but I was a mailman in a really bad neighborhood for a couple years and saw a lot of interesting things. Drug dealing and robbery was rampant. I kept my mouth shut and the drug dealers in that neighborhood made sure I wasn't ever messed with. Since I delivered the paychecks and welfare checks, I wasn't to be touched. That's how they made their money, so it made perfect sense to protect me. I never had anyone give me any serious trouble. Couple of verbal spats here and there, but the ones I had to legitimately fear were the ones I was cool with. They let me do my job. I'll let them do this. I felt like an extra on the set of The Wire. I still do. It's super loud all the time 24/7. Tons of fights. Almost every time I leave my app I get asked for money. I think it would be worse though if I wasn't so big. I saw a kinda medium-sized guy get the back of his head punched just for laughs. Edit for the questions. I still live here because it's the city and I'm poor AF. I pay $550 a month and that's crazy good here. I don't know when I'll be able to move somewhere better. I'm 6'3". No, I did not help him. You survive here by minding your own business. I know it's been said a few times, but absolutely, keep your head down and be polite as can be to your neighbors. Lots of the tougher dudes I warmed up to lived with their elder or elders, but if not it was their single parent. Man, be nice to them, help them out, and don't ask BS questions or get too friendly with the troublemaker in the home. They see you respecting their elder, that's huge. You don't need to be all chummy with them other than to show them simple respect too. Hillbilly white trash trailer park sort of rough. There's often wondering if that gunshot was redneck fun, someone saw a possum, meth psychosis, or are we gonna be on the news tomorrow? Same with is that the couple that fights and breaks poop every night, or a different couple, and I'm hearing domestic violence. Also being terrified to walk to a friend's because if you accidentally get too close to anyone's house they come running, sometimes armed, like a bat out of hell. But I can make moonshine and a mean fried chicken, so, worth it?